issues for visitors to Russia for the Olympics, things like Russian law, and something as simple as souvenir hunting. So what are the do's and the don'ts for Olympic visitors? Joining me now, attorney and legal analyst AnneElise Goetz. AnneElise, I got to know, what's so dangerous about hunting for souvenirs in Russia?
Well, it's dangerous when you try to get out of Russia. So what's interesting is Russia has this law in the books where you can't take anything of cultural value out of the country. Very subjective, and that's determined by your customs officer. So while this kind of seems a little bit esoteric and like you wouldn't actually see it in use very often, it actually is used quite a bit by the customs officers and under Russian law. We've had a lot of American tourists hit with it. We've had South African students hit with it and kind of big media blitzes as a result. But essentially, you can't take anything out that has cultural value such as artwork, rugs, antiques, books, basically anything you'd see at a flea market, tchotchkes, if you will. And if you get caught taking it out, not only could you be fined and arrested, you're going to miss your plane, obviously, you're going to lose the value. And we're talking about things that could be a couple of bucks.
Right, but this is kind of a subjective endeavor, right? I mean, you could buy a Russian flag and take it to the airport in your luggage, and suddenly someone says, hey, this has cultural value, and then you're in big trouble, right? So how would you handle this if you were over there regarding souvenirs?
First of all, I just wouldn't buy anything that looks like it could have cultural value to it. And if I do want to kind of make that leap and buy something that looks like I'm going to have cultural value, or maybe there's a cool sculpture that I want to buy from a flea market or an old Russian book, what you need to do, and this is tragic, you don't want to do this on vacation, but what you need to do is go to the Russian Ministry of Culture and have it certified that it is not of cultural value to Russia. But who wants to spend their vacation going through the Russian bureaucracy? But that's what you have to do. If you want to get out of the country and know you won't have any issues, you need that certificate.
Well, let's face it, you're in a foreign country, and when Americans go abroad, sometimes they think, hey, they have the rights of Americans in Russia, when, of course, they don't. And among the things to look out for, you've told us, is medications. And how does that work into the picture?
So Russia is very strict on what medications you can bring into the country and then subsequently take out. So, for instance, codeine can trigger. There's actually a great list on the Secretary of State's webpage under Russia. They give you the list of what you can and cannot take in. But what's important is, okay, so when I travel, kind of like a senior citizen, I put all my medicine and vitamins in the weekly containers, and you can't do that. Everything's got to come in the prescription bottle. You have to have a note from your doctor saying, verifying that it was legally obtained in the United States. You need to have only take as much as you need for that trip. So if you go in to Russia for a week and you have a month's supply of your medication, they are going to look at that as you're going to go in there and sell those other 3 weeks, and so they're going to confiscate it.
So don't put it in that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday,
no.
That whole vial thing. Don't do that, huh?
No,
leave it in the bottle.
If you want to avoid getting arrested and keep your medicine, keep it in the bottle and only take as much as you need, and bring that note from your doctor.
All right, speaking of getting arrested, the whole gay controversy thing is out there. It's being played out before the Olympics began. There's been stuff going on during the Olympics, I think some protests. What is the law there?
So the law is you can't be involved in any activity that is promoting non-traditional marriage, non-traditional relationships to minors. The problem is this is obviously incredibly vague. It's incredibly vague what you can and cannot do. What we have seen Russia come out and say essentially during the Olympic period is we're probably not going to be enforcing this. No one's actually said we're not going to enforce it, but with the world watching, they're probably not really going to enforce it. But I think what you run a much greater risk is outside of the Olympic Village. Let's say that you're there with it's a homosexual couple, and you and your wife go out and you're having a dinner and you're holding hands like people do on vacation, and you're outside the Olympic Village. That's where I think you're really going to have a problem with violence. And if you get into an altercation and you find yourself with a felony, that's not what you want in Russia. And it's far more likely they're going to prosecute the homosexual couple as opposed to the person that has the anti-gay act.
So what would you recommend to an American who gets in trouble with the law there, whether it's that or possibly, the medication issue or the souvenir? What would you recommend?
Well, if you find yourself actually arrested, actually detained in Russia, the first thing that you have to do is contact the U.S. Embassy. The U.S. Embassy is your best friend. It's your lifeline to your friends, family, and most importantly, an attorney. It's your right under the Vienna Convention to be able to speak with a representative from your country and have your country know that you are incarcerated. During the Olympics, the U.S. consulate has set up an office in Sochi, so it is very likely you can easily contact them. That process will move smoothly while you're during the Olympic period, but you need to have that representative come to visit you in jail. You give them all the information that you possibly can on what happened to you, and they're going to provide you with a list of attorneys that speak English and kind of help you facilitate having your friends and family pay the attorney, because that can be a whole issue in Russia and getting money back and forth. So really, the U.S. representative, the embassy, is your lifeline.
Well, let's hope that won't be an issue.
I know.
For everybody there.
You hear how bad those hotels are over there.
Yeah, I
promise you that the Russian jails are far worse.
Imagine what their water looks like. AnneElise, thanks.
Thanks, Graham.
Coming up next, how Obama